Welcome to our second in a series of 5 proposed videos designed to help families with some quick, basic information about trying to manage defiant and potentially unsafe behaviors as they relate to addictions. In this video in particular, we will look at COVID-19 related issues. Our previous video on the Serenity Prayer outlined in part and in very basic terms, changing the things you can. This topic is an example of a contemporary problem that some diligent effort should be able to alter. The usual potentially unsafe behavior related to COVID-19 that I encounter on nearly a daily basis are concerns raised by parents about their children sneaking out of and back into the home. The object of this behavior is to congregate with groups of friends. Most of the kids involved don't follow any COVID protocols and are potentially exposing themselves to a health threat and bringing it back to your home and to the rest of your family when they return. A little background information may be needed to help parents understand the social forces at play here. Human beings are social creatures. We are driven to congregate with groups of people who we can relate to and them to us. This is one of the main reasons we join groups, for religious practices, sporting events, Star Trek conventions, dancing, clubs of all manner and sort. We like to be with groups of people to share our experiences. Further to this, most teens enter a phase called individuation. This process is the basis of much of the typical defiant types of behavior you see in teens as they try to individuate from their parents and their families. Many teens are also quite impulsive and just simply want to be involved in whatever activity is going on with their group. They don't want to be left out at nearly any cost. Lastly, the addicted child will eventually fall into withdrawal at some point if they can't get out and buy a supply of their substance or substances of choice. And yes, this includes marijuana as well. You can see there are a lot of forces at play here that are drawing our children to sneak out of the house. Okay, so what can we do in these situations? I try to help people find the least intrusive point to start, to turn behaviors around and build up as needed until you find a point where they get your teens' attention to encourage them towards better compliance with your expectations. At this point, it might simply be telling them you know that seeing friends is important, but encourage them not to go. They might even consider having you might even consider having 1 or 2 friends over to the house to visit with your teen. Check all backpacks at the door. If they don't like that, they can leave them outside, and they will like that even less. Same with coats and pockets. There will be no contraband allowed. This might work for some teens, but probably will see little compliance. Next, let them know that you will be implementing quarantine protocols when they return home from sneaking out. That might include masking up, using hand sanitizer and gloves, and staying in a separate area if you have the room in your home. You might even ask them to go for some COVID testing. There will be no contact with others in the home. Awkward, but it can be done if the need is high and you have the space. Other members of the household who may be at high risk for potentially catching COVID-19 might also have to keep their distance if possible. Vulnerable people in the house could also be someplace else to stay for a period of time if the need is great. An alternative to that might see the teen go someplace else to live. This might include an extended family home or a good friend's home. Home is often where the most important social group is, and this is a priority for your teens. They might stop the defiant behavior at this point. The major point here is to try and find a way to accommodate your teen to a point and maintain your expectations at the same time, helping your teen trying to understand that what they are doing could be dangerous for them and for others in the home. Try to collaborate in a solution to the problem. Also, try not to get into an argument about these things. It will just teach your kids how to argue more effectively. These are expectations and need to be presented as such. There's no need for arguing, no negotiating, just expect compliance. These kids usually are not running away. They are going out for a few hours, maybe a day or 2 at most. We call it orbiting. Usually they will return home and want to come back into the house because they are missing the amenities. If none of these steps help, turn up the heat a little more. As counterintuitive as it may seem, I try to get parents not to be too authoritarian. If you discover them leaving, trying to force the issue to stop them at this point will probably end up in a violent outburst resulting in holes in walls and physical threats that your child not so much sneaking out of the house as crashing out of the house. Not a good moment for anybody. These types of interactions will likely only make your kids want to leave even more. Let them know you don't think it's a good idea to go, but stay low key. You likely won't know that they're leaving anyway. If possible, you should have already taken away their keys. Now wait for their return. When you realize they have gone, lock all the windows and doors so that they cannot get back in on their own. This too will be unsettling for them, but hopefully they will get over the urgency of having needed to leave. At their return home, do not let them come in the house. Go out on the front porch with them and talk with them about the behavior and your expectation for it to stop. Try not to let them get involved in the conversation. If they are outside on the porch, they will only want to talk about how to get back in the house. And if you let them in the house, they'll only want to talk about how to stay. These are not the discussions you want. Their defiant choice to leave is only half a victory for them. If they can't get back in the house, they have lost and they know it. Then let them in and tell them to go to bed. They will be tired anyway. That's why they came home. The party's over. They just want to be home, to be left alone and rest. So let them do that. No snack, no television, just bed. If they won't stop talking, suggest they may want to go to one of the teen shelters in town to rethink their worldview. Also, make it clear this is the last time you will let them back in, but don't say much about any other consequence of their behavior. Next morning, arrange to have a sleeping bag and a pillow by the front door, but don't explain why unless they ask about it. Curiosity will eventually overcome them, and they will ask. Simply let them know that if they sneak out again, when they return, they will find the sleeping bag and pillow on the porch, and the door will be locked and will remain so until morning. They can sleep on the front porch or in the backyard, or they can return to where they just came from. The party's likely over. That's usually why they come home. If they refuse to accept this consequence, suggest that they can go to a teen shelter in town for a day or two and think about the behavior and consequences for themselves and others. When they are not getting the results they want, most teens will realize that what they are getting for their effort is consequences, and will eventually start to slow down and even stop what they are doing. Again, most kids want to be at home. That's where most of the creature comforts they want are, and where they want to be. Some teens are more stubborn than others in this area, so there may be a time variance in compliance. Once you start this, do not change course. Don't forget for a night, or that you can't be bothered for a night. Your teen will look for ways to wear you down, and when they find the ways, they will hang on to their defiance until you give up. For the most recalcitrant kids, don't hesitate to call the police. These kids might try to crash their way back into the house. They will likely be making all kinds of noise, banging on the doors and windows, and generally causing a ruckus. Ask the police to remove them from their property and hopefully take them to a teen shelter. You don't want them arrested, but if the kids act up the same way with the police, understand that they might be. Usually when the police are involved, the kids stop what they're doing, at least while the police are there. Many of the even most stubborn kids will stop. Let them know they can come home in 2 days after considering their position at a teen shelter. Try not to get too caught up in tears, excuses, and apologies at this point. Definitely try to avoid negotiation, promises, and debates. These are often tactics that addicted people try to use to try to avoid consequences for their actions. This process is not a negotiation, it's an expectation of compliance. Settle for nothing less. You are looking for action to resolve the issue, not more empty words. In the final analysis, no one has the right to jeopardize you or your family's safety and well-being so they can go hang with friends. Or any other reason. No one. You do, most assuredly, have the right to protect your health and well-being of your family. This brings us to the end of our video. Once again, thank you for taking the time to watch it in the middle of your busy day. I've tried to share some of my thoughts about COVID-19 concerns and how to deal with them. Take heart if it seems like an overwhelming task to curb these behaviors. It is hard, but it is completely doable and more than worth the effort. As always, remember, if you were supposed to be a superhero in all of this, you would have been born with a cape. There will be 3 more videos in this series covering different topics. Keep checking back to see when they are posted. I hope to connect with you all again soon. Take care and take heart.